from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to an episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased joining me from Malta, Michael Cutajar. Michael, the way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So tell me a little bit more about you, about your journey and what you're currently up to, and then we can take the discussion from there. We're going to discuss a lot of things, including AI, agents, and entrepreneurship, and everything in between. So the floor is yours, Michael.
Awesome. My name is Michael Cutajar. As you said, I'm from the island of Malta, and by profession, I am an ACCA qualified accountant and started off my career at PwC. But I was always inclined to entrepreneurship, and I left relatively early on and opened my own Airbnb property management company over here. Through that, I eventually ended up in a tech startup, where my mind was completely mesmerized. We were building virtual reality, and did a couple of years there. And now I'm running my own business as CEO of AI Partners, where we focus on creating custom solutions using AI agents, specifically focused on accountancy and finance.
Cool. You mentioned something which immediately caught my attention myself, is, shifting from being accountant to entrepreneurship. And this is something that usually doesn't just happen like that. So there must be a moment where you said, okay, I need to drop what I'm doing and I need to do this.
No, so I was always very inclined to business. So I remember being very young and being specifically on a bus stop and looking at the businesses around me and just wondering how they're operating and what their pain points might be at a very young age. I did accountancy more just more because I didn't know what I was going to do. And I said, that's a very good course to get practice, both in the business world and in the educational world. So yeah, I just felt it was the next step.
Cool. Now, out of curiosity, starting, the current company, which is AI Partners, there must be also kind of a moment where you spotted an opportunity to be in this space, something like maybe others they're not serving the way it should be, or maybe an underserved market where you can add your value. So I'm curious always to understand from fellow entrepreneurs, about also the moments when they decide to start, their own ventures.
So in our last startup, Metaverse Architects, I joined in as sales and a bit of operations. And eventually I ended up becoming CEO of the company. And I think it was at that moment when I took the leap to become CEO that I said to myself, I have the skills to run my own business, not just as an employee or a minority shareholder, but as a majority shareholder. Eventually, I did end up closing that company on behalf of the investors due to some issues with the co-founders, among some other things. And then that's when I said, wait, that was December of 2023. I said, you know what? I've got savings. I have my other business running. Let me just see what I'm going to do, my next step. So I said to myself, I need to improve technically. So I got a teacher for Python. And obviously, as you know, Python is the fundamental language for AI. So then I built a couple of prototypes over 2024 in a different space completely than accountancy. But it taught me a lot because it taught me about product development, about pitching, about getting investor feedback, customer feedback, etc. So yeah, it was a more than one moment. I would say a couple of moments in the past year and a half.
Cool. Now, if we want to talk about this combination of AI and automation, what are like some of the problems you solve today for your customers,
Sure.
and why you think, the way they traditionally have done. It's very interesting, Michael, because I'm not any by any mean, close to the field, but of course, nature of my engagement with a lot of startups and a lot of also companies, sometimes I feel there's enough there. So what are like the shortcomings, I would say, that you're trying to solve for
Yeah.
them with
Yeah.
this
100%.
combination of AI and automation?
So in theory, accountancy as an industry is broken, in my opinion. It's broken from the sides of the accountant, and it's broken from the side of the end user. From the end user side, it feels like they're very in the dark of what happens, and from the accountant side, they're just overworked, and no one really wants to become an accountant anymore, unfortunately. So what happens is that they have a lot of work and a lot of manual processes that can be automated. One example I will give you is a simple agent which we built, which analyzes the invoice and, in the context of the business, classifies it in an account. So it says, so for example, say we're analyzing, I don't know, your business, right? You have a couple of different things. It says Mehmet is an entrepreneur, is in the VC space, and he has this invoice or this expense. What account should I classify it in? So what are you doing there? You're doing the job of two people. You're doing the job of the junior accountant who is posting the receipts, and you're also doing the job of the senior accountant who is trying to understand the context of which the invoice or the expense is in. And that has been working tremendously for a couple of our clients. I mean, when I say tremendously, you have around a 150% increase in speed. So it's crazy. I mean, this is just one agent out of many, many which can be built in the industry.
Right. Now, how much you've said the industry is broken. This is,
Yeah,
also
agreed.
caught my eyes. In such an industry where we didn't see a lot of innovation,
Yeah.
um, how people are accepting, utilizing such cutting edge technology like AI and automation.
To be honest, my strategy, Mehmet, is I go to them and I build something for them for free, and I show them the value straight away. And like that, they'll see it in front of their face, and you get the wow moment. Like, agreed, it isn't an industry which is easy to break into. Uh, there, there does require a lot of trust, understandably. So that is the solution I have found, and I think it will continue working.
Well, so usually because I work with some, other startups, and I've seen other startups, whereas, the value proposition is actually um, doing more with less resources, whether
Yeah.
time, whether money, whether people. In such situation, and maybe here I want you to put with your sales hat, Michael, like
Yeah.
how you can approach this, because I've seen it a lot. If you mention this in front of someone, they might be scared.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm gonna cut resources, and you might face this guy who's afraid of losing his job, right? And he would try to push back. What kind of strategies you've seen like working in such scenarios?
When the client is afraid of having his team members losing their job, that's the
Yeah.
question. That's the question. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a common one. To be honest, remember, the way I see it is I don't pitch it like that. I pitch it like an opportunity for scale. Because if said employee is overloaded with work, then let's automate his work and go scale more. Because you're still going to require human touch, right? It's not going to be completely autonomous. Therefore, if the AI agent is doing 80% of your job, you still have 20%. So why don't you build on that and scale it further?
Right. Now, another thing which might lead to landing, big customers with the approach that you have said. Um, what you have learned, I would say, from all the previous experience, and of course what you do currently, to close like these big six-figure deals, especially with big places. What it takes today in order to do that?
It takes a lot of patience, a lot of understanding that normally these size of deals require loads of approvals. You're going to have lots of pushback, and you really have to go with the mindset that you need to make the deal work for both of them. And normally these enterprises are only fearful because, say, the person approaching you is a sale is looking for a new solution, but he's not the final. He doesn't take the final decision. It is his responsibility and his risk to make sure that he finds the right provider so that the person signing off is happy. And that's one thing I learned from enterprise. So the person you're speaking to the first time is not actually is the person whose only fear is, am I going to give this solution to the company and is it going to backfire? And that is where you really have to make sure that you double down and show that you mean business.
Cool. Now let's talk a little bit about the business model, Michael, and also
Yeah.
the pricing model that
Yeah.
you're currently using.
Yeah.
Because recently I start to see a lot of debates in this space.
Yeah. So
especially
very interesting.
Yeah, especially with all what the again AI have done in the past 2 years or so. So what kind of business model? How do you offer that? I mean, is it a subscription based? What kind of
So
that? And how you decided on the pricing structure?
that's something I'm playing around with, to be frank with you, right? I'm testing the markets with different things. So the way I see it is, if it requires lots of custom development, it's an upfront fee, and then a subscription-based model dependent on usage. Having said that, there are different ways to price things. I mean, I heard the CEO of Microsoft say that in 3-4 years' time, SaaS will be dead, because of the simple reason that agents will dictate pricing. So usage of agents. I think it's really fascinating. I wish I have the answer, but hopefully we'll catch up in a year's time and I'll tell you, listen, I've cracked it.
Yeah, it's interesting one because and I think I was reading the other day an article, like one of the main reasons that sometimes startups will make it or fail it is because they choose wrong pricing strategy. To your point, SaaS, not as a concept, as a business model. Yeah, now it's becoming a commodity by the
Yeah,
day.
100%.
Now, walk me through something, Michael. And again, when I ask these questions, it's not to challenge. And I
No,
take
let's do it.
different.
I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
The defensibility. So one of the things that we've seen a lot in 2023, 2024, and still now is that every other day we see, Google killed this startup because they
Yeah,
did this. OpenAI, they killed
yeah.
that startup. Now, with the agentic AI and the agents and everything which is coming around that, how far do you think, these big giants which are like providing the infrastructure um, are going to be after businesses like you or
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
some similar businesses?
yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
your take on this? And I'm asking this
Oh
in
man,
a sense so you can encourage people
no,
not to be
it's
scared.
something I've thought about, like defensibility and moats.
Yeah.
It's because these companies are obtaining so much and they're building so much so quickly now. Well, one moat is obviously speed. So you want to be faster than them to build something valuable that they could eventually purchase, right? And they could say, listen, maybe it makes more sense to buy it than to build it.
Mm-hmm.
But that I think is a bit folly, to be honest. The defensibility I'm seeing, at least, is industry agnostic and location is industry specific and location specific. So building AI agents for people in the UAE, for accountants in the UAE, using the accountancy treatments and laws in the UAE to train a model that eventually will be valuable enough to sell to PwC in Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I'm thinking. That's my mindset. Maybe you disagree. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
It's interesting to see. Indeed, it's interesting to see. And no, the answer, like no, yeah, I discussed the defensibility and mode. To your point, I think it's also one thing which people, I think, underrate a lot. It's the personal touch. Although
100%.
we
Customer
talk
experience.
we talk AI, we talk everything. I tell people, look, you're forgetting what we call in B2B space, or
Yeah, yeah,
enterprise sales, the customer success and
yeah,
after sales support. So
yeah.
people would
Really.
always buy from people, unless, and let me ask you this, do you think decision making will be handed over to AI also in somehow, like, do you imagine, like, in order to take the decision and get the sign off, maybe an
No.
agent, a procurement agent, would be judging if your solution is worth to be bought for this
Um,
company?
not the final say, but they would provide 99% of the information, and it's not the final say because there's no liability on an agent. So what are you gonna do? Sue an agent, you know? And it gets complicated. So it's not because the AI agent can't take the decision with enough data. It's because the way I see it, there's no liability. Um, now, I mean, yeah, that's my take right now.
Okay, back a little bit to the accounting space. Do you think, okay, and this is can apply even for coders, can apply for many things. So
Yeah,
if someone loves, accounting,
yeah,
loves finance, um, should they be worried that, some of the jobs that existed
yeah,
before, that they were
yeah.
stepping stone? You just mentioned, for example, moments I had before, that, a junior
Junior
accountant would
accountant. Yeah,
do,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So similar to what we see in with the developers, are we seeing like these junior positions completely wiped out? And if so, how someone gonna crack the code, as they say, and go into specific place? And I'm asking you about accounting
Yeah, yeah,
because it's your domain, it's your
yeah, yeah, yeah,
area of
yeah,
expertise.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, we haven't seen that movement yet, like you see in, for example, coders and I mean the rise of windsurf and cursor and laughable. But but it will get there for sure. Now, when it comes to peace of mind for the junior, it just needs I think a refactoring, refactoring and reapproach to what your job will be. So your job will no longer be a rudimentary, monotonous job where you're inputting data, but it will be one to understand how an AI system works and then potentially increase your abilities to sell and scale and advise. So that's where we're moving. The role will become an advisory role and a very important one.
Right. So it's more a supervising, I would say, right?
Supervising, understanding how to debug potentially, how to see where the AI went wrong, and then a human one.
Cool. One thing also, because I can see you've learned a lot, Michael, by yourself.
Yeah,
But what this journey, whether now with AI partners or your previous experiences, about going and trying something and taking the feedback. So you mentioned like just showing it to
yeah,
potential clients. You mentioned, going to investors. Um, how how that can be accumulated, and you've done this at a young age, like if we look at it, and I'm asking you this to just, again, maybe give some courage to fellow entrepreneurs who
yeah,
might
yeah,
be doubting themselves.
yeah. So your specific question is like, where do you get where do you get the strength from, or
Yeah, yeah, not only this, like, I mean, you started to talk to investors, you start so how did
no,
you
I
learn,
mean,
how did you learn this, how did you how
wasn't
did
easy at
you
all.
practice this?
So in my last business, I was put on the front line to kind of pitch to clients, and when you start pitching to clients, you then eventually end up doing some public speaking talks, and you kind of need to develop a bit of a hard skin to people saying no. And that led me to then pitching to investors for this project and the ones I was working on last year. Having said, it just takes courage, really. I mean, truly, it's not something which comes too natural to me, but you just have to understand that in the event they do say no, it's not a personal rejection, it's feedback. So that was one thing I really had to hammer home on. So not personal rejection, feedback. In fact, I had it on my screensaver on my phone. It's a feedback loop, right? And luckily, it worked well.
I think it worked well because you practice it also as well.
I mean,
yeah.
Last year, I said to myself, like, I need to go get feedback from the real world, like Silicon Valley. So I found flights from Malta to Italy, and Italy directly to Silicon Valley, and I stayed there for 6 weeks. And I just got to know people. I pitched, I learned from people who are around me, and that was a life-changing experience, because you really see that, personally, you see that the people there are not much more talented than yourself, but what they have is an ability to think big and to be confident in themselves and not to be afraid of failure. Whilst here in Europe, I'm not too sure about the MENA region, but in Europe, we're very resistant to failure. We're very fearful. I think it has to do with our roots.
Oh, you just hit the nail on his head.
Yeah, the Americans, man, they've got the courage, huh? They're brilliant.
Yeah, I don't want to reveal what I'm working on, but this is something, and I get asked about this. They say, why you always talk about the valley and the valley? I said, look, man, like I really, I work with some companies who were headquartered there, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious by nature to understand. I like to study things, right? I like to study, okay, why this happened,
Yeah,
what
amazing.
was the reason, right? Anyway, I think you just said it, Michael. Our biggest problem, MENA regions, I think with Europe is the same as MENA region from this perspective. And I learned this, by the way. I was shocked when I started to talk to founders and even investors in Europe. I thought like, okay, maybe they are okay, not Silicon Valley, but better than MENA. But I discovered that almost we're the same. Anyway, so I think the last thing you just mentioned, yeah, of course, we are all smart. Let's be frank about it. There's no one like, okay, we have more skills here and there. Is the culture of accepting, actually, like, yeah, they tell you fail fast, fail often. I think, yeah, and there's no taboo of someone failing. I think this is the biggest thing. I believe in Europe it's the same. I have a lot of European friends, and some of them they live here in Dubai. And here we have the same issue. If you fail, you're gonna become the topic of the weekend nights. Oh, like, see, Michael, he tried to do something and he failed. Or someone say, hey, you see Mehmet, like he tried to launch a podcast and he's humiliating himself. I know this happened. And because the reason is people they expect, I think this is education and culture and a lot of other things. But yeah, I think this is one of the main reasons why Silicon Valley is what is Silicon Valley. Of course, there are a lot of other things also as well. Now, for you, and talking about Silicon Valley and different geographies, scaling, when we talk scaling, we talk about moving to different geographies to go out. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure like you're targeting currently maybe local and European clients.
And European, and UK.
Yeah, but at some stage you're gonna scale. Now, first, like, how is your experience this from previous things you did before, and how you can prepare? You think, and everyone, I'm asking this for everyone, they can prepare themselves for such, scaling to other geographies and understanding also the culture. How that is important.
I would say that is something I'm comfortable with, because in my last business we had 0 local clients. We had American, Dubai. I mean, we worked with Maf from Dubai. I'm sure the developer. We worked with Canadians, and I had led most of those projects. It's slightly different because that was service based, but I do understand. What I tend to do is do research about the culture, the business culture, beforehand, just to make sure I don't overstep in any way, and just really be respectful and be patient. Now, when it comes to building a product and scaling it in specific regions, you do need help. You probably would need an investor from there or a partner from there who can really push you through the door and say, "Hey, Michael's company is here."
Cool.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
I'd like to know a bit more on that point about the confidence as a region, both regions. How do you suggest we're going to fix it, though, Mehmet? How are we going to instill more confidence in our region?
Ooh.
I mean, we've already been, I think, half an hour, so we can't take a crazy amount. But I'd love to hear your take because it intrigued me.
Yeah, so this is one of the rare moments when my guests start to ask me questions, which I like, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I don't like to say anything is impossible. This is the first thing. But now I hope that that in the span of my lifetime, I would see things goes different. Now, is it going to be fast as I want? I'm not sure. But yeah, so what we can do to change? So people think, I believe, from one perspective only. So some people they say, yeah, all this is because lack of capital, which is true. We have lack of capital. People are risk averse. They don't. I think we need to customize the success of the Americans, if that makes sense, that fits us. So because I think what happens usually is we have I'm talking about MENA region more. We have this kind of antibiotic in our bodies that when we see something at first we reject it, right? Even if something good. The biggest problem, in my opinion, we don't have early adopters for people who are building whatever services, products, and I always say, look, you can get capital, you can get whatever it takes, but if you don't complete the whole circle, right, you're still gonna have this problem. And I think, and when you said about people, you about the failure and all this, so this is part of it, because you know what, if we don't fix that, Michael is building a product that helps people with their accounting, right, and finance. If we don't have enough people locally to believe that, yeah, look, Michael is building something, it might not be 100% perfect, but he's up to something, he's visionary, and he's gonna try to fix his product and service. If we don't get to this level, I think we will always have the same problem, which is being always risk averse. If we cross this, I think we will have a little bit chance. And risk averse applies to early adoption of a product from customer perspective. It applies to capital. So being really, and people, they miss the word venture capital a lot. And the word venture capital means like you need to do a lot of bets until you, but people think, oh yeah, like I'm gonna invest in this next unicorn, which is not the case. So yeah, so I would say like this, if we fix these, now how? It's a collaborative work. It's a lot of education. We need to train the next generation also as well, like our kids probably, maybe, that look, not everything comes perfect from day one. You need to give it time. We need to show them more, in my opinion, Michael. The first Apple computer, how it looked like. It was a wooden thing which is fixed by glue, and so nothing is perfect from day one. I think this is, if we manage to get this, maybe things will change. I hope.
That's a really good point, Mehmet. I mean, I just thought to myself, I wish I had an entrepreneurship class when I was younger, at a younger age.
Okay.
Because just like you have Italian, like you're learning Italian or maths, you could potentially have an entrepreneurship class, because it's so diverse and it teaches you so much that it could really reap benefits, I think. I mean, I don't know about you, but entrepreneurship taught me more than any other book, any other advice, any other thing about life, because it's so diverse. There's failure, success, there's leadership, there's late nights, there's happy moments, there's so much.
Yeah, the education system itself need a complete overhaul.
Yeah. Another discussion for next time.
Yeah, we discussed it, by the way, yeah, a lot, and I'm still surprised. Like maybe some people would not like calling it an entrepreneurship, topic in schools, but things that are related somehow. So accounting, by the way, is one like money, right? So they don't teach us money in the right way in schools. I'm not sure about like in Malta, but the place where I grown up, and even still now,
Mhm.
no one teach us. No one teach us like how. I mean, about business concepts, right?
Oh no,
Simple,
no,
basic concepts.
no,
Yeah, and
no.
then we look at a company. Oh, it's like the monster that they
Oh,
are after. So anyway, um, as you said, maybe
great,
discussion
great,
for
great.
another time. Um, what's on the roadmap for AI partners,
Roadmap.
Michael?
Raising right now. Should have got some good news in. So that's next step. And and then just doubling down on growth, on growth to market. Starting some client calls with accountants in the UK, which is great. Not only Malta. So
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be super interesting. I mean, I'm very familiar with the UK, so that's great. And just keep on grinding and growing.
Cool. Um, Back to the entrepreneurship, because I think this topic is is more fun to talk to you honestly, Michael.
Yeah.
You talked in, I'm checking your LinkedIn, by the
Yeah.
way. So you talked about something about the having the brave leap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So maybe it's related to the question you asked me, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think also we don't have a lot of people that don't take this brave leap? Is it comfort zone? Is it
Uh,
like we understand things differently?
I
I would
mean,
love to hear your opinion.
I think if that can break it down, so assuming that the person going to take the leap is not a person who doesn't have any backing by friends or family, so literally not none, then I understand it, to be honest. Then I really truly understand it. That then the risk is too great, and you really have to be brave. At least many people in my country have a form of backing. Let's just keep it like that. It is it's fear. It's fear. It's social fear. Social fear. So we are social animals at the end of the day, and even if you say you don't care what people think, it's hard to actually not care what people think. But in some people, it's greater. And resources, but not financial, more than like ecosystem resources, as you said before. So that there aren't many ecosystem resources for people just to drop out and start building. And then generally just curiosity, right? So people are just not curious enough to say, listen, I want to learn about X or Y. So I think those three, that trifecta is mainly it.
Do you agree with me, Michael? But it's getting even easier if we really think about it. It's getting really
Easy,
easier.
easy. It's easy to build a business. It's easy to validate a business, at least to get some feedback if your product is good or not. You can literally go on ChatGPT and say, I am I am a cook and I want to open a specific type of restaurant, and it gives you 150 ideas. And then you say, okay, I live in Malta, and it gives you 40. And you say, create a business plan. You can literally do that.
Right,
It's amazing. It's an amazing time to be entrepreneur, and take advantage of it. That's the way I see it.
right. And I'm lucky to see proofs also, like, yourself, Michael. And actually, to back to the chat GPT, I had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Matt Letta, the famous guy who was after the Hustle GPT.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
And Matt is running a full-fledged business now, and
Of course.
he's using like similar to what you do, like agents and like these kinds of new technologies to drive the business. And the reason I ask you, because people can do now more with less, actually.
100%.
uh, yeah. Now, do you envision, this what some of people in the valley, again, they said, like, the one man business who would be valued as unicorns. Is this the end goal actually?
Uh,
What's your take on this?
do you think it's feasible though? Do you think it's actually realistic, or is it just like some dream? Because one man to build a unicorn, I mean, you know what you're saying. Maybe 10 or 15, but one is bloody hell. You have to be.
Yeah.
You can have. I mean, you could have agents running your business, but then you still have all the sales and the stuff and the thoughts, the legal. I just think it's too much. I give it 5 to 10 people.
Yeah, that's see. We've seen, the 2025 people stories, which are like real. Lovable, which is one of them.
Love is an amazing example. European as
Yeah,
well. Props to
yeah,
that.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So this is where
Come
people
on.
they give exact. We have
Come on.
winners.
Let's go.
Yeah, but reality is, again, maybe this is Michael, my own opinion on something, and I would love to hear yours as well. One of the things that our friends Americans have done, they are masters of framing, right? So
Are
master
they?
of framing,
Master
masters,
storyteller.
yeah. And the way I want to do it without naming anyone, of course. So when we say it's a one man business, right, or one woman
Uh-huh.
business, but they forget about, like, okay, as you said, you have all the parts, right, the legal, but
Yeah.
if forget about agents and AI
Yeah.
agents,
Yeah.
with and then I discovered, like, they're utilizing a lot of freelancers, you know
Yeah.
one as assistant, the other as this, the
Of course.
other as that. And yeah, but you can. So the thing is, yeah, you see in the front one person, but in the background we have like maybe an army of freelancers. Maybe, yeah, they are not full timers, but yeah, officially on the paper, yeah, it's a one man show. But actually, it's like it takes a village. I think this is the kind of framing that also maybe we need to learn. Actually, we,
Yeah.
we need to
True.
to to master the storytelling a
True.
little bit.
True. I,
Yeah, please go ahead, Michael.
I think we're too honest sometimes, and I see it in myself. We don't know how to, turn things our way and to storytell, you know, at least like they do. And I mean, creating a compelling story is amazing for valuations, for sales, for interest, for media, for PR. But back to the actual one man building a unicorn, it's a no from me.
No, I don't think it's feasible. Like there's the burnout also
I agreed.
factor,
Amazing. So personal
right?
factor. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, as we're almost coming to an end, and thank you for letting me talk today.
Pleasure. I mean, it's your show.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's about my guests and sharing their knowledge. What you want to leave the audience with today, Michael, and of course, like, want to ask you how they can get in touch and
yeah.
learn more.
No, I mean, if they have any questions about accountancy, tax, finance, and audit, how agents can help out, I'm always happy to help. I less than business advice and more than personal advice for people who are considering starting a company. It's never been easier, like generally. And you can get everything off the internet if you want to see how the fundamental laws of startups. Go and see the YC videos. They're all free. You have around 25 hours. If you want advice from people and experts, you can find everything on the internet. And generally, people are also willing to help for free. So just take the leap and go for it. You won't regret it.
Cool. Where to get in touch?
LinkedIn, Michael Cutajar, so that's Cutajar, or email michael at ai-partners.ai.
Cool. I will make sure that these are in the show notes. If you're listening on the favorite podcasting app or you're watching this, in the description. Michael, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for letting
Pleasure,
me,
man. Pleasure, really. Enjoyed it.
yeah, uh, me too. And this is usually how I end my episodes. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck. Thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please give me a favor, subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming again and again, thank you for being so loyal. Thank you for taking the show to new high levels this year, and especially in the months of May, June, and I think we're going to continue this for the rest of the year. We are being ranked in the top 200 charts simultaneously across multiple countries, with something for the first time since I started this happen. This cannot happen without you, the audience, and of course my guests. So thank you very, very much. And as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.